Now to a Fox News alert. Chaos in Minneapolis as protesters call for the mayor Betsy Hodges' resignation.
The protests erupting at a press conference after it was announced that the police chief was stepping down after a controversial cop shooting.
Joining us now with his reaction is the host for The Blaze, Lawrence Jones. Lawrence, nice to see you this morning. You saw the press conference there, shouted down. She couldn't really even get a word in edgewise. They put up signs all around her telling her, we want you to quit, resign, get out.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit different because I was a part of the Tea Party, and we did the same exact thing. We got sick of legislators. We may disagree with the policy of what these protesters are saying, but I think this is American democracy at work.
Is it the most effective, though? I mean, we had Dan Bongino on earlier, and he was actually outraged about the protests. And I totally get what you're saying. I think it's a great point. But he said, how are they going to make change if they can't even hear what they're trying to tell them? If they're really trying to lay out some of the things they're doing, they can't even have a conversation.
Well, I think the conversation is important, but we as a Tea Party, we shouted people down. We went and protested. We took over their city halls. I think the difference from this protesters is a lot of these protesters in these cities, they don't follow up and vote. And so if you want change, you got to vote. You got to go to the town halls. You got to talk with your legislators and actually get a plan of action.
I would argue you probably didn't take over a podium, though. I mean, there's a difference between protesting and taking over a podium. But I also think this is about the Minneapolis mayor, Betsy Hodges. She's allowed chaos in her streets, blocking of freeways, bottles and rocks being thrown at cops where the police didn't feel supported. It may have been a terrible incident.
Exactly.
But when you allow lawlessness to occur, you get more lawlessness.
Exactly. And you know what? That's one thing that I saw yesterday that I was actually proud of, that it didn't result into people setting the cities on fire, because that's typically what happens in Ferguson, Baltimore, New York. We've seen a lot of these protests escalate to this setting the cities on fire. And this city has a history of that. So that's why I give the protesters a little bit more credit. Again, I'm a libertarian. And so when it comes to telling the government, you know what?
But do they have a valid message here? What is their message, and is it valid?
I'm not sure their message is going to resonate with the people, but I'm a little troubled by this case as well as the Philando case. And I think this is an opportunity for people to unify. I think so often we look at this issue regarding the police in different communities as a race thing. I think it's a government intrusion thing, a government not doing the right thing by its people. I think you can support the blue, back the blue, but make sure the blue is backing the law.
Lawrence, it's such a good point, though, you make. I mean, you could live in Russia, you could live in China. You won't have that.
Exactly.
You know, I think you've been on the other side of making other arguments, but it's a good
I just
point
know people wanted to shut us down in the Tea Party. They accused us of being racist and anti-government, and they really tried to silence us. And I like to be balanced when it comes to the left, because I don't want them doing that to me.
Sure, fair enough. But you weren't throwing bottles or punching people.
No,
if you don't enforce the rule of law, then you let more things happen.
That's right.
So,
Lawrence, thanks so much.
I appreciate it.